Hi, this is Mark News from Plant Talk Radio. Thanks for subscribing and listening to our podcast, Your Gardening Questions from Plant Talk Radio. If you have a gardening question you'd like our host Fred Howard to answer, send him an email. The email address is fred@planttalkradio.com. Now for today's question. Well, as you have rightly mentioned, we have had ample amounts of rainfall. I know here in central Ohio, we've even had some flooding problems over the last few weeks, but even this week, no flooding, but we did have a good deal of rainfall in the middle of the week. And now I think we're expecting more like in the middle of next week. Mm-hmm. So, we shouldn't really have to water anything anytime soon.
No, nothing significant, Mark. And I say that some annuals will still dry between rains from time to time. Some of the shallow-rooted things, but so on. But this year is one where I do appreciate a green lawn, but I'm always more concerned about green heads on the trees. This is big trees, little trees, and everything else, and other permanent plants. A lawn, should it be necessary, can be replaced for relatively fewer dollars and in a very short period of time. Just a matter of fall to spring, you can have a new lawn. But when it comes to trees, I think right now, just based on my checking a couple of gauges that are pretty close to official. At least they agreed yesterday morning when I checked them, and we'd got another half an inch overnight. And they did agree right to the very perception. But at the same time, I'm happy that our trees are getting a break. It sounds strange, but the worst place there is for a tree is in somebody's yard as a single individual. Now, it might take a whole lot of time to explain that, but trees grow in groups naturally. You have a beech forest, you have an oak forest, you have a maple forest, not exclusively. There are things growing lower. There are always some blends, but when we put a tree out to face the wind, the rain, the cold, the drought, the competition with grass, it's the worst possible place for a tree. This year, they're getting a break. Yeah. And maybe those in the low-lying areas are getting too much of a break. But for the rest of us, a little higher on the hill, so to speak, our plants, permanent plants, should have been really well taken care of by Mother Nature at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, with the moisture, there's always the good and the bad.
That's right.
With all the moisture, you're probably looking at a good deal of disease chances.
Well, this is true. And boy, are the diseases rampant and showing on the hawthorn trees. Hawthorn trees are in the apple family, so there's probably some scab on the apples also. I'm noticing an awful lot of flowering crabs that are, pretty darn close to totally defoliated now. And that's one of the things then when it comes to you buying new plants. More testing is being done. The breeders are doing their thing by offering us new products in terms of new plants, new by color or shape or form, whatever. But we just simply need to pay attention to the tag, I guess, or go to a garden center where the longstanding personnel, especially on weekdays when they're not quite as busy as the weekends, they will be able to tell you more, whatever. Flowering crabs, for example, they are now under high scrutiny. New ones have to pass a lot of tests, so to speak. First of all, good flower, decent fruit, decent size, so they don't, let's just say mar your driveway or your yard or whatever, et cetera. And then they are tested over and over again for fungal disease of the leaves. It's called apple scab. Mm-hmm. It's a very basic plant problem, but it's one of those things that I'm now watching, and I'm trying not to be too vindictive. 40 some years ago, I lost a contract on a whole row of flowering crab apples on a roadside. And I lost it only by $4 a plant. And it was one, and I remember quite specifically. And the difference was I was recommending a variety that had been tested and found to be about as disease resistant for apple scab and so on as you can get. The other party put in some other trees that were not tested and known to be scab-free, and where flowering crabs can flourish up into their 40s and sometimes more. I think there's probably only 5 or 6 out of that 35 plants that are alive and well today.
Yeah.
Now, so be it. I a slight bit of glee when I drive down the road and they've had to replace them all. But at the same time, it's just one of those things that you should know to ask a little bit about the plants. Sometimes you have to, even the people in the nursery have to refer to the tag. And Lord knows I do. But at the same time, do ask, because there are many more disease-resistant plants than there used to be. And when we say resistant, it is truly that. They're not immune to the disease, but if they get it, they usually don't get it as bad. It's kind of like a vaccination for us. If you get the problem, it's reduced in terms of its severity for you. Sometimes it comes. The one thing a friend of mine said, I had chickenpox, and I have the remnants of that now 45 years later. He said, so I was not made immune. However, I probably have a whole lot less of it than some.
Hey, thanks again for listening to our podcast. Be sure to subscribe to our other podcasts as well, the Plant of the Week podcast and the Plant Talk Radio podcast, all on iTunes or your favorite podcast player. If you'd like to sponsor a daily podcast, contact us at fred@planttalkradio.com. To find out more about Fred Hauer and Plant Talk Radio, visit our website, planttalkradio.com.
Circle270media.com